Hey there, welcome back to the first of the worst podcast. I'm Brendan Murphy.
And I'm Steve Arendas. Brendan totally dropped his microphone in the middle of that.
Not in the badass dropping up kind of way.
That was amazing. It's a great start. We could edit that out and start over, but I don't think we should.
So we're doing a Tarantino style, the starting in the middle kind of shit.
Yeah, number 5 on your list. We're not going to tell you what the list is. That would be great. Speaking of our list, what are we jumping into today, Brendan? Is it college classes / courses?
It is college classes. Why is this bad? That was one thing I was thinking about. Maybe because higher education's just like the biggest Ponzi scheme on the face of the earth. And
I agree with that. And I'm also just of the school sucks thing.
Okay, school sucks. You and I are not like the kind of people who would be like career academics.
No. But yeah, no, like it's a higher education I agree. It's kind of a Ponzi scheme of sorts. There's probably got to be a better, more economical way to teach people what they need for their careers.
It's that everyone is special and everyone has the chance to be the next whatever. And everyone can rationalize their genius. And higher education is one of the crutches that allows people to do that.
Yeah. And nowadays you just need it to get like a job. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it helps a lot of careers. Yeah, exactly. They just want to see that you did it. So that said, if my children ever listen to this in the future, you're going to college.
And probably grad school, because it'll be necessary in that generation.
Oh, fuck that. I hope something gets fixed about that by then. I hope something changes. When Bernie gives everybody free college, though, so.
God, could you imagine?
Then everybody will just go to grad school. Then they'll have to go to grad school because everybody will just go to college.
And it'll be free. So fuck.
Forever. Just keep going.
Yeah, who would? Everyone becomes Buster Bluth in the Bernie world. Just always in school.
Oh man, have we ever done this a midweek day game, which is what we're doing today?
We have not.
I guess it's kind of a lunch break podcast for us.
We're Cubs in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the 1:15 start for us. 1:20 Friday start.
Yeah, it's exactly what we're doing. Can't wait to hit a huge home run late in this game to clinch it.
You're gonna Schwarber it?
Yeah. Speaking of, so if anybody doesn't know, so like Kyle Schwarber hit this big home run for the Cubs and like stood on top of their scoreboard, and now they've like encased it in something and like super glued it to the top of the scoreboard so the ball's still like where it landed. Like, what? Shouldn't I just get a drone and steal that ball as a White Sox fan?
I feel like there's already black ops for the White Sox fans. They got like SEAL Team 7 in on it. Not 6. 6 was busy, but SEAL Team 7, they're cool. If you're on SEAL Team 5 or 7, are you like feeling like a little left out? 6 is just like the badass motherfuckers, 0 Dark 30. You're probably like equally badass. Just lack for opportunity. You probably do all kinds of cool shit that no one even knows about.
Yeah, awesome stuff. What
You're
if there
is SEAL?
Is there a SEAL Team 5 and 7? Like, does that even exist, or is there only one? It just has the 6 as something else.
I don't know. Wasn't there an Agent 006?
Sure. Sounds right. I feel like there was other numbered agents. Yeah, I agree.
Imagine if you were like Agent 11. How unsexy is that? Like,
yeah, it's not.
There's 007. I'm Agent 11. No one's fucking Agent 11.
Oh man, I can't wait for Black Bond.
Oh, I heard that it might not happen now.
No? Why not?
I heard that the estate of the guy who wrote all the Bond books
is racist.
Doesn't want him. The fact that you could still say that, people are like, okay. Fair enough. It's like when people are like, Barack Obama seems like a nice guy. I'm just not ready for a black president. You're like, what? Excuse me?
I've never heard anybody actually say that out loud.
That was like a big, that was like one of the respondents' answers to like the surveys when he was ready for president. And now people are like, I'm not ready for a woman president. Like, excuse me? You would actually admit that?
People are crazy, man.
Even if you aren't ready for a woman or a black president, By the way, not a good era for you. Even if you aren't, you just be like, yeah, I just don't think I'm ready for it. I mean, they're fine and all. I'm cool sharing a water fountain with them. I just don't want them to be president.
I guess there's a type of person who is like against those things is also the type of person who's so ignorant and dumb that they would say that stuff out loud.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, that's amazing. Let's crank it up. Let's crank it up at these. Let's talk about some college courses. And I wish you just took all the courses on my list and you couldn't get a degree. You're up number 10.
Oh yeah, I would like to know though, how many hours did you graduate with?
Oh, I had 1 million. So like, what is the normal? Like 124 or something?
I thought it was 15 for 8 semesters. I think that's what it was at Mizzou.
15 for 8 semesters. So like 120, right?
Yeah, 120.
I graduated with 168.
You essentially did have a graduate degree. You just didn't get to claim it.
Yeah, so well, I took some classes. All right.
Yeah, I graduated with the bare minimum 120.
Well, that's what happens when you transfer and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
And you change.
Oh no,
majors.
I actually had above that because I took community college classes, so I don't know exactly how those.
You transfer, you change majors, like you end up with a lot of classes. All right, what's your number 10?
Okay, can I put at least one that is not on mine that I have to mention because it was like the worst thing ever, and I'm pretty confident everyone has to take it.
Hope I didn't know. What is it?
Econ?
Oh yeah, dude, that was a business major.
It's the hardest class. I mean,
which one? Micro or macro?
Micro.
Oh, macro is worse.
I remember the grade was like a 55% was like a C plus. Like an F in a normal class was like, yeah, you didn't do that bad in this class.
My econ class had 750 people in it. My microeconomics class.
Mine was in probably 500. I mean, you and I both went to big state schools.
Yeah. I would sit in the upper deck of Follinger Auditorium and read the Daily Illini during class, and then just bought the notes out of the place that sells notes.
And you and I were in an era where I never had a laptop in college. People did, I didn't. And we were in an era where you didn't have like Wi-Fi and you couldn't just read the internet through your classes and stuff.
Yeah, I had one like by the end, like senior year, but I didn't like bring it to class or anything like that. Like it was just like my computer I used. Like
they also were pretty big then.
Yeah. We were right before the era of kids probably all having laptops in classrooms,
which would have been awesome. It's awesome to surf the internet at work. Probably way even better in class.
All right. So what's your number 10?
My number 10 is a class that I took in my I did 8 semesters, but they weren't concurrent to one another. I took a semester off and did 2 classes at a junior college. So it was not really my super senior semester.
Gotcha.
But timing wise, it was. So, and then I had gotten almost all of my major out of the way.
Oh,
I was a journalism major. So I was taking like upper level electives is what they had to be. And one I took because it was from 3:30 to 6:30 on Tuesdays was feminist studies.
Oh, really? How was that?
It was like when I go to yoga class, I was one of only 2 dudes in there.
Yeah, and were you even allowed to talk?
Oh, they hated me.
Did your opinion matter at all?
They had a girl who was clearly like disinterested most of the time, but knew what she was doing, and like that was probably her major, and she's probably still in academia. And I remember I gave my presentation. She goes, "I just want to say that was the most gendered thing I'd ever heard." Got a B- for your information, so clearly not the most gendered thing you ever heard. And I couldn't call her a bitch because that wouldn't be feminist of me.
No, you should have called her a bastard.
I was just like, thanks for the constructive criticism.
Awesome. All right, that's a great story. My number 10 is a class that actually sucked, psychology, but I'm only putting it here because I was able to get tons of extra credit by just going to be experimented on. So it's kind of how I got through that class.
What were some of the experiments?
Nothing like I didn't like take drugs or like anything like that. It would be like weird things where like you'd like watch videos and like people would be telling you stories and like you just had to guess whether they were telling the truth or lying, or like just like weird things like that. But like it was just easy to get extra credit, so then I could just really slack off on the rest of the class.
Well, also that's just like those sound kind of fun.
Yeah, I had one where I sat in like a pitch black room. It was just a pitch black room, and there was like a red laser dot on the wall. It was the only light, and I was in there for 15 minutes, and I had to say which direction the light was moving. Like if it like up, down, left, right. And at the end, I like this is one. So the other one, like the lying one, they didn't give me the results, right? I just did it. I guess they didn't want me to tell people or something. And the laser one at the end, they were like, it didn't move at all the whole time. Great. I'm like, I don't know
college to make you feel stupid.
I don't know what you learned from that one. My next one is a class. I kind of took something of this nature. It was a little different back then. But I think it's a class. This is more of a class I feel like everybody just should take at this point. And that's like some kind of like HTML / like web page class. Like if you go to college, just take that class.
But it was just so antiquated compared to like what
it is now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I feel like that's just something you should at least have a general understanding of. And just take it, even if it seems like it doesn't apply to your major.
Oh yeah, you should definitely.
It could help you at some point in life. Some kind of like basic coding or like, I don't know, something like that. Just something you should take. So what is your number 9?
My number 9, I actually went with like specific classes. Seems like you meant more general.
Some of mine are specific.
Although actually this is very general.
Okay.
Biology. And I only picked it.
How did that make your list?
Because Arthur Johnson was in my lab, famous Missouri basketball player. And then I talked to a guy I know, and he's like, he was in my lab too, like 2 years ago. And I was like, that's kind of weird. So he was just dropping out and failing. And our teacher was a woman who demanded we called her Redneck Robin.
That's hilarious.
And Redneck Robin was a lot to take at 9 o'clock Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
It doesn't seem like biology would be the class that Redneck Robin would teach.
Exactly. Doesn't that sound like someone who would be like a creationist?
Yeah.
She's just bucking trends. Although you get weird kind of people in college towns.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Who are like career academics, but they grew up in like the swamp.
Yeah, they just like got sucked in, and then they just like didn't want to leave college.
And they're smart also, in spite of growing up in the swamp.
Yeah. Yeah. Redneck Robin, huh?
Redneck Robin.
What's your number 8?
My number 8, I don't really have a good anecdote about it, but I do think it's something everyone should take. Constitutional law.
I didn't take that.
Well, it's so very important for any sort of political debate now because there's ways of interpreting the Constitution, and the way that, in my opinion, morons interpret it is that it was written exactly precisely the way it was supposed to be written in it actually wasn't 1776, was it like 1783 or something when this actual Constitution came into play. And that's like the people who are like, we have the right to bear arms against militias. I mean, like things like that just bother me. And so I like to have that background to argue with them and to think that I'm better than them.
Well, I don't need it because I just say that I think it's insane to the document that's over 200 years old is what you're basing everything off of now.
I will say that the same people who think that it should never evolve are the same people who like love the Bible. So they like old antique books. They're just antique book readers.
I just like, things change, man. They didn't know what the world was going to be like 200 and whatever years later. So my number 8 is Greek mythology. And Brendan just went into a coughing fit off the idea of Greek mythology.
Yeah.
Greek mythology is just story time, man. It's like fake history. It's fake history. Let's go to a class where they're just going to tell you stories, which is like what history class is, except these stories are crazy. They're just fucking nuts. And it's like Bible stories, except you're allowed to believe these are fucking nuts without people getting mad at you.
But at the time you weren't. At the time it was like, oh yeah, that's why the sun's up there. Obviously.
Yeah, and in 500 years from now, they'll have Bible mythology.
Obviously, I better eat these cow testicles because then my wife won't die. No shit. So easy.
Yeah, Greek mythology is great. You learn about weird gods and weird fake wars and stuff that happen. Yeah, it's story time. So then my number 7 is a class I took. I believe it was Anthropology 101 at the University of Illinois, Introduction to Archaeology.
That is a Buster Bluth class.
So this class was like 90% slideshows of like old shit.
Oh.
But it was awesome. So I'm like, hey, let's look at dinosaurs. Let's look at, there was a whole day of class that was a slideshows of like ancient, like native countries, like their like weed smoking apparatuses.
Oh, I bet people were pumped for that day.
And they were all like giant dicks that you smoked weed out of, or like women with like like hilariously gigantic breasts that you smoked weed out of. And this was like a whole day of class. Also, the final of this class was a video game.
Tomb Raider?
That would have been great. Where it was like we had to like write a paper along with it, kind of, where you like did an archaeological dig and you had like money allotted to certain things you were allowed to do. It was like a Sim City of archaeological digs.
That does sound awesome. I might do that just to do it.
And then I realized everybody's was the same except slightly rotated. So I looked at other people's before I did mine so that I could dig in all the good places so I had good things to write about.
You're always on the scheme tip, man.
But it was a weirdly entertaining class. What's your number 7?
I went to college thinking I loved history and left college being like, history is just way too much work. But I did have one history class on here, and it was mostly because I got to take it with all my friends, and that's Irish history.
Okay.
Turns out England, a bunch of dicks.
Well, yeah, history would tell you that.
Yeah. Well, I got to double down as an American and someone with Irish heritage. I get to double down on hating England.
Almost every history class will lead to some point where it's like, oh yeah, England, they're just fucking shit up. Like I took like an Eastern history class, and it was just like, oh, the English people were pumping opium into China and selling it. The English were growing opium in India through the East India Company, and then getting people in China addicted to opium.
And those are the people from whence this country were born, and that sounds like such an American scheme, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, every history class at some point ties back to the English people being terrible.
The U.S. wishes they could pump China full of opium right now.
That'd be great.
Yeah, maybe they'd forget the debt. Not forgive it, just forget it.
What is your number 6?
Com 103, which is just like intro to com, com theory, things like that. I liked this because we had a lab, and in our lab, one of the assignments was create your own TV network. And we were freshmen, and I wasn't necessarily called a freshman interest group. I don't know if you guys had something similar at U of I, like you were in dorms with people in your major, and you took a few classes together just so you could get to know each other.
Maybe some people did, but I didn't.
That's how I met a lot of my friends. It worked out. But my FIG, one of our classes was Com 103, so I was in it with all my friends, and they're like, create your own network. And we were like, we're going to create a network just for men, and we're going to have American Gladiators.
You invented Spike TV.
Exactly. And we're going to have American Gladiators reruns and a 64-girl mud wrestling tournament and a reality show about Ted Nugent. And almost all those things came to fruition in real life. Like
God,
the class was bugged.
You guys sadly didn't know that the Ted Nugent reality show would get really political.
It just seemed funny at the time. It's like, what dipshit would do this and be entertaining?
You guys are just reading too much Maxim magazine.
Oh, that's exactly. And it is like in that era of your life. When I was like 23 or 24, I went to visit a girlfriend, and I flew, and I got to her place, and I was like, I'm packing my stuff, and I put down a Maxim. She's like, what the fuck is that? I was like, oh, I was reading Maxim on the plane. She's like, you were doing what on the plane?
like men's,
how
men's
creepy that
magazine
is?
another great list. What was like the other Maxim? There was like another magazine that was just
FHM.
yeah for him monthly. I think that's what it stood for. FHM. That was the other one. Now Playboy is kind of going that way. I read there's no more nudity in Playboy.
Yeah.
Except their writing's always better, but
the problem is that the articles that used to appear in Playboy are all on the internet now at Gawker and, places like that.
yeah. All those like
Playboy's done.
Yeah. I agree. So am I on
do I have
6? Was that your number 6?
Yeah, that was my number 6.
Okay, so I'm on number 6. So this is a really vague one, and this is something that I never took advantage of, and I just call this whatever weird pop culture shit class your school offers. You always like see these things where it's like zombies in society or like philosophy of skateboarding. Just take that fucking weird class because I'm sure it's at least an interesting story to talk about years later.
Ours was like philosophy of baseball.
Yeah, take that
But
weird
it
class.
was not like strategies of baseball. It was like abstract, like
Yeah,
what
exactly.
does this all mean bullshit.
Take that weird class just so you could talk about it later. I never did. And another one is this is another general one I put down for my number 5, and it's something I regret not doing. It's like just taking one of those like PE like sports classes in college, which I never did. Yeah, like golf, bowling, swimming. It's like an excuse to work out, or like half workout, or play a game or something. Like just take that class. Get you a little off campus and moving around. Why would you not take that class? I didn't do it. I'm an idiot. They're usually only like 1 or 2 credits, though.
All right, you got to start over on that last one.
Oh yeah, you just came back and you look really grainy now.
Yeah, you cut out. Maybe it didn't cut out on the recording, but may as well just do that one over.
Yeah, I'll do it again. My number 5 I call is another like big cluster one. I call it PE sports classes. Those physical education sports classes. I never took one. Totally regret it. It's just a good way. Like you can take like bowling. What are the other ones? Golf. Things like that. Swimming. It's just an excuse to go work out and hang out and not actually have to really do real work. They're usually like 1 or 2 credit hours too.
Yeah, I think they generally are 1.
So
I remember
like
Andy Katzenmoyer.
Oh,
former Ohio State linebacker Andy Katzenmoyer just loaded up on those to get eligible, and they found out, and everyone just ripped Ohio State to shreds. But technically, it wasn't illegal.
That's amazing.
I mean, we did discuss this on the gym podcast a few weeks back, but I do think just the concept of like, hey, here's time in your day just to work out. You would kill for that now. You're a father of twins. Like, when do you get that?
Yeah, exactly. I would love it, and I don't know why I didn't take advantage of it in college. There's like basketball, and you don't get graded on like how good you are at basketball.
It's a show up thing, right?
It's like a show up and like show effort and improvement, and like you know what I mean, things like that. So like I don't know why I never took. Who
teaches those classes? Like grad assistant basketball coaches?
I bet it's like somebody like that.
Yeah,
I bet it's somebody like that. Yeah. Plus, I can nail like the free throw shooting part. I'm awesome at shooting free throws.
The least athletic part of basketball. Way to be.
Absolutely.
Or the whitest, depending on how you want to look at it.
I'm also good at shooting threes, so I have all white.
Although, like, let's be real. Best free throw shooter, not even a white guy. Steph Curry, clearly.
Currently, yeah. Steve Nash, I was thinking in my head. Probably
all-time percentage-wise?
I don't know. He's probably still might be the best free throw shooter in the world. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I don't think that goes away right away. Honestly, like Steve Kerr is probably like the 3rd best free throw shooter on the Warriors right now.
He probably is. They don't even have bad guys.
And he doesn't. Steve Kerr's doesn't even have a back right now. But
so what is your number 5?
My number 5 is it was comm law, which itself wasn't that interesting. It was a J school mandatory elective, but my teacher was awesome. A guy named Charles Davis. He's now the dean of journalism at the University of Georgia. But what I loved about Charles Davis was he was a writer at a newspaper who almost got ran out of town for writing a column that called Dale Earnhardt Jr. an idiot for not wearing the Hans device. Dale Earnhardt Sr., pardon me.
Dale Earnhardt Sr.,
the one who got killed in an accident because he refused to follow like the recommended but not mandated safety protocol. He kind of was like, well, I would say I told you so, but he's not around to hear. I mean, like, It's a very good point.
I took that class because I weirdly have a journalism degree. Yeah, I took comm law. Yeah, I kind of hated
strictly
it.
based on the professor.
Yeah, I hate law classes. They're brutal. I don't understand how anybody becomes a lawyer.
Love of money and feigning interest in civil rights.
I feel like if I was gonna do like go to school forever and get money, I go doctor. It seems more interesting. But yeah, and oh yeah, fucking comm law sucked. I hated that class. And you had to write some big paper. You had so much writing in that class, and in all law classes, so much reading and writing. Get out of here. So what is your number 4?
My number 4. These like 4 classes I really like. I combined it to 2 because I took 2 sociology classes, and if I went back, I'd at least make that a minor. So the first was just intro to sociology, and then the second was called sociology of sport.
Okay,
which I guess is kind of like one of those like theory of baseball type classes. Intro to sociology, it was really easy to figure out. Just pick the most liberal answer, and you're always right. Legalize all drugs, free all prisoners, give everyone guns. I mean, like guns are part of it too. Yeah, guns, you go for it. When I say liberal, it means just like no restrictions.
Yeah, like libertarian. Yeah.
And sociology of sport was great because half the class was on hoop dreams, which I had seen several times, so I really didn't have to go.
That's great. But then you kind of wanted to go because you were talking about hoop dreams.
Yeah, I mean, like, I knew a lot about hoop dreams. And I grew up here. I mean, not in that exact neighborhood, obviously.
No, I mean, you were one of the ancillary characters in Hoop Dreams. You can talk about it now.
William Gates dunks over me.
That would be great. If you were like
guys are like 45 now.
I know, they're way older than I think in my head. Because
that movie was like
movie took so long to film. So like those guys were already like old like when it came out.
Yeah, that movie was I mean, when that movie starts, they're basketball players in Chicago, and the guy they idolize is Isaiah. It's not Jordan. That's how, I mean, like, because Jordan was like not even that big a deal yet
when they started. Yeah, I have a class like this on my list. I guess I'll go into my number 4. So my last 4 classes I took. They're all classes I took, and I really
everything I have on here is a class I took. We did interpret this a little differently, but it's like the Constitution. You interpret your list as you wish, as is your constitutional right.
My number 4 is Intro to Dance. So this was a situation I had with my like transfer of schools where it was like my last semester and I realized my art credit didn't transfer. So the only class that fit into my schedule was Intro to Dance that would get me to graduate, along with like the required like major classes I had to take, to finish out. And it was kind of awesome. It was like Monday night for like it's one of those like 3-hour Monday night once a week classes. It was like 50 people in the class, 46 girls, 2 gay guys, me and another straight guy. And it was awesome.
That's like my feminist studies, but
more fun.
Not like it at all.
Yeah, but more fun.
Like feminist studies would be insulted Intro to Dance existed.
Yeah, for sure. It was weird because you'd get like the people, though they're mostly women, but like you get the ones who are like just taking it as like their art class. But then you'd also have like all these freshmen who were like becoming dance majors, and it was like their first class.
Sounds like not a terrible place to meet a woman.
No, it wasn't. It was a great place to meet a woman. I fully suggest this to any incoming college students to take like an intro to dance class. Also, like, cause it's like intro to dance, like I was talking about those PE classes, you don't get graded on like how good you are at dancing. It's like participation and then like learning about dance, which is easy.
Was there any written work?
Very little. It was like, you would like learn about like some history of dance. It was very little written work. You had to take some like remedial tests. It was such an easy class. And like, you'd have to go to like a couple, you'd like write a couple like reviews of like like campus performances was like the only real writing you had to do. Or like you'd go to a couple like campus performances. It really wasn't bad. But because you had like 8 million girls in your class, you just like go with like a pack. Like we find some girls and go with them. It was great.
What a little fiefdom you have now revealed to the world.
It was a great class. My number 3, kind of in the vein of your sociology classes, media in society. And it was all just like you said, you just go as liberal as possible with all. Our teacher was such like a hippie. And
imagine how different that class is now.
Oh God, it's probably crazy. My final paper, I wrote like 25 pages on the TV show Playmakers.
Oh, that was a big issue. I have a helmet signed by the cast of that show. The Miami Sharks helmet signed by the cast of that show. They gave it to me when I left ESPN as an intern. Because it was just in the guy who hired me his office, and I was like, that's awesome. I was like, really?
Yeah.
Like, we loved that show.
Yeah, it was like a big issue at like the NFL, like tampering and like forcing the show off the air or whatever. Right. Give me an excuse. I own Playmakers on DVD somewhere.
As do I.
Because of that.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know where my DVDs even are. So
I don't really either. I'm gonna figure out today when I start packing up some stuff. What is your number 3?
My number 3 is English 20. It was just expository writing. It was like a freshman requirement at Mizzou, as it should be. I mean, I think that there should be more writing requirements than there are at every level of education because people are so shitty at it. But English 20 was expository writing, and your teacher picked the theme, and it was just, you didn't know what the theme was. You just showed up day one, and our theme was The Simpsons.
Oh, really? Well, that's awesome then.
Yes. I mean, how can you get any luckier than that?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so we were writing like expository papers. I got a B-, which was kind of my go-to grade in college. I got a lot of B-, which also bothered me because at my high school, there were no minuses and pluses. So when I got to college, I was like the 80% guy all the way.
So
like
we had minuses and pluses, but I don't think they factored into your GPA.
Well, at Mizzou, they existed and factored into your GPA.
They do at college, yeah. But they existed at my high school, but they didn't factor into your GPA. It was just like a thing. It didn't matter. A- is the same as an A+. B- the same as a B+. It didn't matter in high school. But in college, it very much matters.
But it was awesome. It was not easy, but it was awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun class. Ours was like, I never took that because I took like some weird joint class where it was like 2 semesters and it was like a combo. I did like a combo courses of like where writing and speeches were like melded together because I didn't want to just do all one at a time. So that it was like, instead of having like doing speech, like a speech class and a writing class, it was like 2 combo hybrid classes. So I don't think I took.
Yeah, I mean, they were just English classes, I mean, right?
Basically,
kind of both.
At that point, yeah. Because back then I was a business major, so it was a little different. So then am I? Is that your
number 2? Is
yeah. Your number 2,
and that is the reason I didn't like history is because it was all the reading, but it was nonfiction reading, and I generally don't enjoy that.
I very rarely read fiction outside of Game of Thrones.
And I mean, I've started to read fiction now, but I have a weird obsession with the War on Terror.
So
I read all these books about it, and I love it. And I watch Frontlines, and it's a very strange thing that I'm really interested in. But I guess I should have gone to the CIA. I'm sure I have the demeanor for that.
Yeah, sure.
But it was American Lit, another kind of intro, and mine was fucking awesome. It was just short stories. The first half was Ernest Hemingway short stories, and the second half was Raymond Carver's short stories. And you might be like, "Oh, who's Raymond Carver?" But you've actually heard at least of one of his books if you've seen the film Birdman. That's the play that they're adapting from his book.
Okay.
That play looks terrible. Did you see that movie?
No. Never saw it.
Do you still have HBO with the move and all that?
For now, but I'm HBO is a requirement for my life. So
yeah, it's on HBO on demand. I really, really enjoyed it. I'd recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch it at some point.
I mean, a lot of people obviously did.
Movies are tough for me at this point in my life.
Yeah, how much time do you have? Like like what's the probationary period? Like when will the kids start sleeping through the night and things like that?
I mean, they're kind of there, but like at some point it's like 8 p.m. before I kind of have like time to myself, and then I'm eating, and then I don't know. I'm not like ready to dial into a movie.
Also, you got your shows.
Yeah, exactly. Sports. I have shows and sports. There's just not time for movies.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from there.
And you know my weird attention span. I have to really be committed to sit down and watch a full movie. With a show, I can always, and even if you're binging, you don't have to binge. You can just like watch like 40 minutes and then be done.
Birdman is actually made for you if you have ADD though, because there's never a cut.
Really, it just like goes.
Yeah,
nice.
Which is why it was like so praised and all that.
Yeah, there was very few cuts. It was like very few. They made it look like it was all one shot, right?
They will like pan up to the ceiling and pan back down, things like that.
That's clearly
it's like
where the
1
shot
second.
changed. Yeah.
And I read that in the filming, like if you flubbed a line, everyone was super pissed at you.
I'm sure.
Because like it was 11 straight minutes of doing it and getting it right. You know,
there was no like cut take where somebody flubbed a line and everybody started chuckling.
Well, I didn't see the DVD extras yet.
All right. So I'm on my number 2.
You're on your number 2.
My number 2 is a class I like so much I took it twice. And this is what happens when you transfer, and you can take a class twice because its credit didn't transfer. You just take it again at another school.
Oh, education.
And I think it's a class that I loved, and I think people don't take, and they should, and it's logic.
Oh, I wish I took logic.
Logic's great. First off, the class is like, it teaches you how to argue, which is kind of fun. And like it's a lot of puzzles, like word puzzles and things like that. It's a fun class. It's not that hard.
Sorry, go ahead. It's good for comedy. Steve Martin had like a whole part in his book where he's like, taking logic was the best thing I did for my comedy.
You should just take it at community college. You should just sign up for it and take it like at a community college. It's probably pretty cheap. Take it like one
City
class.
Colleges in Chicago are free.
Well, I don't know if they're free for you.
Yeah, because I have a degree. You can just go back and get new learning.
What if you just like sat in the back of the class?
Yeah, I don't think they'd really care. I don't know.
Who is this guy? So then my number 1 all-time favorite classes, this is after I just talked about how I don't have time for movies anymore, was I took foreign film. And I would just say probably any film class is probably awesome to take. Because do you like going to movies? Do you like watching movies in theaters once a week? Because that's what you do. And then you talk about them and write about them. It's awesome.
I mean, that's why, like, when we were doing the movie list, you've seen Rashomon and all those some really famous movies.
Because I took the foreign film class.
Yeah.
But this was also famously the class that didn't transfer, so then I had to take dance my last semester.
Oh. So double your pleasure.
Doubled my pleasure. But it was great, man. You just like literally go in and like you could bring a couple snacks. You're gonna watch a movie in class. It was awesome.
Those were always the best days in every level of education, right?
Yeah, but this one, like you're in a class with like a full like movie screen. It was
and it's probably a really good movie.
It's a historically at least acclaimed movie, whether you like it or not, is the case. But like, you know what I mean? Like it's a critically acclaimed movie of some kind. There was definitely some classes in that foreign film class I thought sucked, but they were like famous movies.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't take any film classes. I guess in retrospect, I wish I would have. I generally just made my schedule based on how
convenient it was for you waking up late and not going to class on Friday.
Yep. So that must not have been something that was available.
The problem is those classes are often like that has to be one of those once a week 3-hour classes. Yeah. Right. Because you have to be able to watch the movie in class. Right. So that was going to be like a night class. And
I mean, I did take a few of those and they weren't terrible.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, if you missed a class, you missed a week. Like you couldn't really.
You can't miss those.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't miss those. Because you're right. It's like missing 3 classes. So what is your number 1?
My number 1, and like I said, we did this differently than you did. I mean, we did this differently. Mine was just intro to reporting and advanced reporting because I'm in theory, still a writer and reporter. Those were great classes for me that I very much enjoyed. And I got to work, and at Mizzou, you got to work at the newspaper as part of it.
Oh.
Also got to have two like hard ass editors. The first guy was a guy named Ray Murray, who was just so angry all the time, but in like a loving way. And the second one, I won't mention her name because it's someone that I was oddly sexually attracted to, considering she was in her late 40s.
Come on, give me your name.
Well, no, because like I mean,
I
still
her on Facebook.
Yeah, I want to keep the door open.
Well, let her know.
Road, but we all we
come on. What's her name?
Catherine Reed.
Yes.
So Catherine and we all hated her. We would just have like we would go to the bar after our beat meeting and have a second beat meeting where we would just bitch and bitch and bitch about how hard she was on us. And
how hard you were for her.
Well, I didn't. I usually kept that to myself or gave it to her, but not to the rest of the reporters. And it also kind of taught me a lesson about life, about how hate is one of the all-time unifiers. You hear it a lot in sports.
Yeah,
like we all hated the coach, and so we bonded together. And that
this was 100% been in that position before. Yeah, right. Everybody like hates somebody, and that's what. Like,
hopefully, it doesn't happen with a nation. That's when it's bad. It's a bad unifier then.
It can unify a nation. It's happened before and it usually ends in a bad way. You're right.
In an us against the world kind of situation.
Yeah.
Literally.
I don't think your guy, the Donald's going to win, if that's what you're worried about.
Oh, I was talking about Germany, but...
They, I mean, like all the, I thought you were talking about your own nation and hating your own leader.
Oh, well, I mean, George Bush, I thought did a pretty good job, although only half of the people hated him.
Yeah. I don't even know what a president would do to have to think. How hard would it be for a president to have everybody hate them?
Impossible. Nixon, I guess.
Because there's so many people who will just like blind.
Steve, I lost you.
To have like a president to have like Yo, can you hear me?
I can now. The picture is gone. Are you there?
Yeah.
You were gone for a while.
Yeah, no, I could tell because you like your screen was frozen on my thing, which is weird.
Last thing I remember you saying is how hard would it be for a president for the whole country hate him?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of realized I was frozen at that point. That's fine. Yeah, but I mean, we can talk about that or not. But this, I think we're about to, we can wrap this up here. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when I came into this, I was like, higher education kind of sucks. And now when I leave, I'm like, I see the value in it.
No,
however,
I don't.
I would still argue the value is not what you pay for it. Fuck. Did we didn't lose the podcast though, did we? Fuck. Okay. It would be brutal to lose the podcast in its entirety, though. Yeah, I mean, I would guess we're going to be able to get it done until the end of the call. Yeah. Okay, well. Oh, because I'm not signed out yet. So should I sign out? Oh, dude, sign back into the chat. That's weird. Sign back into the chat. Yeah. Can you? Because it still has the live thing up. Maybe I can invite you. How do you do that? Okay, so just quit and it'll stop recording, presumably. Okay.